Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is June the 10th of 2020, and we are getting ready to begin the ending of this stream.
Yes. Yes.
So,
if you're listening to this, we're now 10 hours, just a little shy of 10 hours into a 12-hour-long charity stream. We're currently raising money for the Do Nord Riot Recovery Fund, which is to help all the Black and brown-owned businesses over in Minnesota. And we expect this to be a relatively small affair. We expected to just do nonsense for a little bit, and much like clowns at a train station, to get a small pittance of people saying, well, you buffoons have entertained me long enough. Here's a small nickel from my pocket. And instead, the community of this podcast has given over $5,700 to this cause, which is absolutely beyond what we ever expected. It is unfeasible in my mind. I never in my dreams imagined anything like $5,000.
Yeah. You asked me right before we started what you should kind of set our goal at, because we were going to have like a goal graphic that would slowly fill up. It didn't sync up, but
it's worth noting how bad we are. I shouldn't say bad we are. How bad I am at actually,
how inexperienced.
You know what? That's a good way of saying that. That's a very good way of saying that. To know how all this stuff goes, but everyone has been so awesome, and we've had a lot of fun so far. We've done some games. We punched some rats. We ranked all the Pokemon. And hey, we just got a $50 donation then from Theodore Culbertson. So it just keeps coming. This has been an incredible experience, and if we sound like we're fading, we might be, because
we're fading a little bit. I'm actually much less physically tired than I thought I was going to be, just because the act of talking on a stream is more tiring than you would think if you haven't done it before. My throat is starting to get a little bit tired. But it's mostly like I feel like taking a nap, just because like I need to like not do anything for a little bit.
My challenge right now is probably somewhere about an hour ago. Start feeling it here. So I had some tea. Helped a lot. Still feeling it. So there's going to come a point where for some bit, I'm going to scream. And it's all going to go. And it's going to be for something stupid. Like I'm going to be like, it's some actage thing. I'm going to be like fake angry. Like, I can't believe she did. Like I'm going to do that, and it's going to be gone. And then I'm going to be like, so this week on We Never Learned. For me, it was Scotty Reagan.
I kind of want to get you like provoked now before we hit
my sweet voice.
Should also note, because this will be affecting the programming of the podcast, so to speak, that one of the things that we did to encourage people to generously donate to the fund was to offer up as a prize for donating, just basically anyone would be eligible if they donated any amount whatsoever. The next recommendation that we'll be working on.
We have it picked.
And we have it all picked out. I could announce it now, or I could announce it at the end of the.
I'll announce it when we get there, because it's technically my pick. But so we should also announce the generosity shown during this was incredible. We had somebody who donated $1,000 on their own, and somebody who donated $2,000, and so many more just incredible donations beyond that. We only were able to pick one person for this recommendation, but because there was such a massive display from those individuals, we wanted to give them. So we're going to reach out to the people who donated the $1,000, $2,000. We're also going to get a recommendation from them because this is to such a great cause. And we were very touched, I think, by that amount, the generosity shown there.
Yeah.
So I can't say now what their picks are, and
we don't know yet.
If the first person's like, I want Saint Seiya, and the next person's like, well, I want Detective Conan, and the person after that's like, you should do Ippo, they're probably not all going to be back to back, but we'll do them definitely.
Oh yes. So we are going to just start things off with the regular episode of the podcast, and then at the time that we do the recommendations, we'll go through that. We'll go through the first one. I will go ahead and just say for now that congratulations to Arjun the King for winning the raffle, basically.
And I think we got another $5 donation from Michael Johnston as well.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. Yes, for those of you who are listening to this in the future, at the time we are recording this, the 12-hour charity stream is still ongoing and is concluding with this.
They're capping it off.
We might interrupt. There might be brief interruptions every now and then to thank people for their generosity. So, okay. Let us begin the recap portion with Manga Recap with My Hero Academia, chapter number 274, Search. Endeavor is flying towards Shigaraki, and Shigaraki basically stares past him as big flame guy is descending on him and just thinks to himself, I've got to get one for all. And he his eye basically just appears over the landscape beyond, and he spots these twinkling lights off in the distance. And as Endeavor descends on him, and this entire curtain of flame surrounds him, and Endeavor says, you can't get away with this, and he's trying to finish him off right there and try to neutralize him. Shigaraki kind of dashes forward, swipes his hand in Endeavor's face, he dodges out of the way, and just keeps on going past and flying past, and Endeavor realizes that there is no way that any person should be able to actually function within all these flames without protection from the heat. And he realizes as soon as he was burned by my flame, he actually regenerated. So he's starting to realize that Shigaraki's got more than just his decay quirk to work with now.
Ruh-roh.
More exchange of blows. Endeavor tries to attack him again in a way that I don't really get, but I think what happens is he tries to grasp at him, and Shigaraki's hand flies past him. Endeavor intercepts the blow and is like, no, you're not going to touch me. But then he seems this wave of energy come from his palm and knocks him away. And Shigaraki emerges from the flames and the smoke and stuff and just comments that he feels as if he's been reborn with all of this power inside of him. He then goes to a little canister thing, and he puts some stuff in his pocket, and then he also grabs his mask hand thing. And as he's doing all this, he comments to himself, now that he's got all this power inside of him, so then why don't I feel satisfied? And that, of course, is because something is not there. He doesn't have one for all now. And he thinks to himself as Endeavor tries to attack him again that something inside of him is urging him, telling him to go after it, to get one for all. And he says this last part out loud, and Endeavor's like, what is he talking about? And he actually says one for all out loud. And over in the town where they're evacuating, Burn-In gets this message, and he's like, one for what? Whatever. All right, well, we're sending help for you. And Deku overhears this, and he realizes that Shigaraki is after him. And meanwhile, Shigaraki has realized where One for All is, because he saw the light of that quirk sparkling in the distance. And just as a quick little reminder of how he's doing that, we cut over to Ragdoll in the Pussycats headquarters, and she just says aloud to herself, if only I had my search quirk, I could be helping everyone. It's an understandable
Does
thing.
she say it in like
think about, but in that moment for her to be having to say that.
Was she saying it in an iambic pentameter like you did it?
If only I had my search. If only I still had my my search quirk. And so just, a quick reminder of like, oh, so this is the surge quirk kicking in so that, Shigaraki knows where to find this because we know that's...
Didn't pick up on that. I'm dumb. I was just like, oh, we're just going to touch base with her. Kind of weird the Pussycat stuff, something like it was last week, but whatever.
Well, because remember, All for One specifically saw the use of her quirk and wanted it to be stolen, and now we see exactly why. So presumably it's so that Shigaraki will always be able to track down One for All. So more evacuation proceeds. Shigaraki goes into a crouch and then just leaps through the air at incredible speed. Endeavor warns everyone that he's headed towards the evacuees, and he says, all right, start evacuating the outskirts as well, and you prepare, a perimeter. Basically, he's just mobilizing everyone. And as everyone's mobilizing, Deku starts heading in the opposite direction. But just as he starts to move, Bakugo says, hey, if you told them what's going on, they would devote a lot of people to helping to protect you, because heroes are supposed to protect everyone. And, he just starts running alongside Deku and says, you've already made up your mind, right? And Deku says, yeah, I've got to prioritize the people's safety. And so Bakugo's like, well, we don't we don't know for sure what's going on, but still, we better get you moving. And so they start moving off. And of course, the other people in 1A are like, where are you going? And they just leave. And Deku just says, I'll just be right back. And Uraraka watches her man leave and go into danger. And so Deku thinks to himself that if there is a way for Shigaraki to be tracking him, if he's able to pick out One for All among a big crowd, then I've got to get away from this crowd of people so that he will only come after me and not hurt anyone else in the way. And it's going to be basically Deku and Bakugo, it looks like, facing off whatever danger comes their way when it arrives. So
I'm actually pretty excited by the way that ends. I do like the idea of like the two of them working together as kind of this progression we're now seeing of the Bakugo Deku relationship, where they were enemies and then they were kind of reluctant friends. Then they had to have a big fight, and then he kind of became the only person in on the secret. And now he's like, hey, because I'm really the only person in on this secret, I'm here to watch your back. And it's also a way for him to kind of show off. I think I'm really excited to see what the two of them are going to be able to do together. I don't know what they could possibly just do. Stop Shigaraki. He's like ultra mega super powerful right now.
Yeah. He knocked away Endeavor like he was nothing. So what the hell are they going to do?
Yeah, so. But it is very exciting because you want, like, now is where you have to sit there. You're like, what stops him? Like, what prevents this from just being Shigaraki kills Deku, the story is over kind of thing? So.
And there's that. There's Gigantomachia's on the move. Toga's on a rampage. So we were at a point, early in the fight where it seemed like, obviously, things are going to turn against the heroes at some point, but they're really just kicking ass over and over again. And it seems like they've got the overwhelming advantage. And now, of course, things have gone completely the other way. And it's like, I can't really see any circumstance where the villains just don't just kill everyone and win. So.
And I know some people are saying, I know that his plan is to depower Deku, but as to, like, what stops him? I know that he wasn't technically 100% finished, but it's the idea that he has the ability to just keep hunting Deku. He can always see now where Deku's power is and where One for All is. So even if they get Deku out of there, he could just keep going after them. So it's this thing where there has to be some kind of stop to all of this or something. Something's going to happen. It's going to be very big. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
No matter where Deku goes, he'll never be safe, basically. So
super exciting.
All right, let's move on to Actage, Scene 115, Guaranteed Pass. Chris, you were just talking about how excited you were.
No, so here, I'm very excited for this chapter. I'm excited because people have told me something about this chapter, and it blows my mind.
Oh, okay. Are you going to save that for when we reach the
I'll bring it up then. I'll bring it up.
Okay. So Kay is going in for an interview, as we saw at the end of the last chapter, to presumably play the actress that Kuriyama made the movie about years ago, that they went and saw the movie last chapter. We see at the beginning of this chapter that Kay actually went to Arisa and asked her if there was a guaranteed way to pass an audition. And Arisa's like, no, well, of course there fucking isn't. be the person that they want to have in the movie is basic, or project rather, is the answer. Like, there are some things where, they start with a role, they have a role with a particular actor in mind, and that's basically the only guaranteed audition that you can get. So she says this, and then she says like, hey, do you understand why I rejected you at the audition last year? And Kay kind of is like, personal preference? And Arch is like, yes. And Kay's like, I was right. And I mean, she just flat out explains like, yeah, the director and the casting team just have a vision, and they have certain preferences, and then the person who best matches them from what they see in the auditions and what is just who they pick. There is not a test that you pass. So no, basically. So we see Kay first, at a table with several of the other people auditioning, and then they get called in one table at a time, and then we see one group of people applying for the position, who is this brown-haired, I guess, girl named Natsu Nina. And Nina thinks to herself that, okay, well, I recognize this girl next to me. That's Mimi Agasa. There's this girl, Kazuma Hyo, and then there's some girl with glasses that I've never seen before, but I mean, she's probably good, because the only one at this audition who has less experience than me is Kei Yonagi. So presumably all of these girls here are more experienced than me. So they meet the director, whose name is Goro Inui, and so they're like, okay, to begin the audition process, my question is, why do you want to audition? And so they're like, come on, anyone. And then a lady in a cap shows up, and she's like, yeah, so they're looking into how your communication skills are. And they're like, don't interfere in the audition process, please. No, I'm going to. Fuck you.
Fight me.
And Nina recognizes the woman immediately, and she's like, yeah, I actually offered to play myself as a teenager, but I don't have a teenager's skin anymore. So which is why I'm going to kill one of you and wear your skin. Anyway. Ren Tamaki, she is now 33 years old. So yeah. So she says this, and she says, hey, come on, show me what you've got. Don't be nervous. And so the girls speak up one by one. One of the girls says, I don't like doing TV work at all, but Taiga drama is different because the rehearsals are so much more elaborate. The work is interesting. The other girl next to Nina says, well, I mean, your guys are the ones who sent the audition announcement to our agencies. So we're here because our agencies told us to audition. I'm here because I got into acting because I need money and I'm talented at it. That's all. And then the girl in the glasses says, I'm here because my agency sent me too. But I trust their judgment, and I intend to land a role today. And they're like, all right, cool. And then there's Nina, and she starts to introduce herself, and Tamaki's like, I know who you are. You're the most famous person here. You were in that one girl group. You're very popular, and you've got commercials and fans and stuff. And Nina's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, I know I'm not very good at acting, but I'm going to try hard to catch up. Then they do a script read. Each of them take a different role. Nina falls into one of the roles. Black-haired girl who is like, I don't like TV work, cries on cue. Blonde girl is like, and then glasses girl stands up in front of blonde girl and turns her back on the people actually hosting the auditions in order to try and gain their presence and stuff. And all four of them start really getting into it. They're standing up out of their seats and stuff like that. They've actually put their scripts away, and yet none of them are ad-libbing. They've already actually memorized the script that they have. And Nina's kind of worried because she is not sure if she's actually going to be able to keep up, but she is. And then after that, Tamaki speaks up and says, hey, I want to know something. Why did you start acting before the audition started? And everyone's like, what are you talking about? And then the girl with the glasses takes off her glasses and says, well, I was told an audition is like an arranged marriage to gauge compatibility. And I was told that there is no guaranteed formula for success. So I figured I'd have an advantage if I can show I can play lots of different characters. And she takes her hair down, And it was Kay in disguise all along.
So I heard some people say that they were like, wow, what a surprise. And I really, like, I guess this is just something, I didn't pick up on the pussycat thing in the last chapter, but in my mind, I was like, yeah, everyone's realized this is Kay, right? This is 100% obviously Kay in disguise. I think it's kind of weird she's trying to pretend she's someone different, but yeah, it's Kay.
I do remember thinking as I was reading it, this girl looks a lot like Kay.
Well, it's like, hey, we were in a group of 4 characters, and Kay was the 4th in our group, and suddenly now we've disappeared, and this...
All 3 of the girls that were at the audition were sitting at the table with Kay before they go to
and
the
now
audition.
A character who, if you took the glasses away and put her hair down, would look exactly like Kay is there, and you're like, maybe that's Kay. Look...
Well, it fooled some people, Chris.
You know what? And I think in that way, that could be a very effective thing. If people are able to buy into it, that's fantastic. That is a good show of this. My issue with this is the same issue I've had with Actage, where I just couldn't buy it. Like, in my mind, I was like, how obnoxious would it be if you were fucking sitting there, you're like, all right, this is the first table read for Suicide Squad, and fucking Jared Leto comes in his full outfit with like tattoos all over his face, and he's throwing dead rats on people. He's like, I thought it'd be fun to get into character first. And he throws a condom at your face, and he does this big ha ha ha, and you're like, oh, I hate this person. I hate any person that does this.
Two things. One, I do actually really appreciate that Tamaki's like, why are you doing that? Like, she's seen through it apparently immediately. That's, that's a stronger indicator of her character than anything else that goes on in this chapter, I think. 2, so what was the note that you wanted to that you had about this chapter?
That was it, the K thing. Yeah,
that was
I do. Okay. There was one thing I was a little disappointed by. We got to see Takami's face. I wanted to never see her face, and it was like this elaborate thing that if she's the same girl from the movie, we're never actually meant to see her face. But we did. And I was like, oh.
So either she's not the girl from the movie and we're just completely wrong,
or she's a human being with her own agency and she actually has a face, I guess. I don't know. Fuck art. Jeez.
It's not like they couldn't just frame her while not showing her face. It's even easier to do that in manga than it is in a movie.
Maybe it'd be too much of a gimmick. In my mind, I was like, that'd be kind of a fun, cool thing. But maybe after like 2 chapters, I'd be like, just show her stupid face. Who cares? I probably was never going to be happy. I'm such a pig.
I kind of have mixed thoughts about the way that Kay played the audition. I thought it was a unique... I do like the very shonen way of handling it, like, oh, it was me, that whole thing. And I don't think it's as bad as you would make it out as if Jared Leto showed up at an audition.
No, it's
like
not
that.
as bad as that.
It's just her playing herself down in order to kind of have like leave more of an impact.
It's just so let me give you guys a great recommendation. If you are a fan of the show Scrubs at all, I highly recommend checking out the podcast Fake Doctors, Real Friends. It is Zach Braff and Donald Faison, JD and Turk from the show, who actually are apparently very good friends who have a relationship that is essentially the same as the 2 characters they played on the show had. It's a very entertaining show. My brother describes it very aptly as a warm blanket for the soul every time you listen to it. It's very good, but they every time they talk to somebody on the show, they talk about how like their first edition auditions go, and every time I'm just thinking like, what if this person had gone in and just decided like, all right, so I'm in front of the network executives and they are debating between like 4 or 5 people. What if I just don't even introduce myself and I just go in as the character immediately? I'd be like, no one would ever accept it enough to be laughed out of it. I know it's this is a manga. This is supposed to be eccentric. It's one that's, as I said, I can't buy into this manga the way I should be able to.
Here's the thing. That's the exception that proves the rule when that kind of thing works. Because there are definitely examples in history of how that kind of behavior actually worked. So when George Lazenby became James Bond, he basically just did it by showing up and acting like an arrogant asshole like James Bond in like a full tux and with a Rolex and stuff. And then he had no acting credits to his name other than doing like commercials. and he would pretend that he had done films for like France and Germany and other places that it was difficult to check that kind of stuff on at the time. And then there was a point during the where after he had like impressed one of the casting directors or producers or something like that, he got brought over to meet the director, and he couldn't remember the entire story he had told the previous person he had bullshitted his way through the door to. So instead, he was just like, "Yeah, you tell him what I told you," basically. And then they repeated all of the lies he had said, so that way he didn't have to keep the lies straight. So, and that all worked because that was the kind of weird, charismatic asshole that they were looking for that role. So there are cases in history where it has worked. But yeah, I agree with you. Where you look at it, and it's just like that would never work, and it's like sometimes it would.
I should say say it's more obnoxious than anything else. So I guess certain times you would be charmed by it. Yeah.
All right, Chris. Eden Zero. You talk.
Yeah, let's talk about Eden Zero. So much to talk about. Chapter 97. The time is now. That's it's John Cena's reference in case you don't get it. We did get a wrestling reference in. We said we wouldn't, but it happened anyway.
Talked for like an hour about wrestling earlier today. So
and if you want to check it out, there will be there should be a highlight on the stream where you can find it on there. All right. So last time Drac and Joe became completely uninteresting because he became a big generic blob monster, and
he became a thing out of Dead Space.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And turns out you can't just punch those things down. You apparently do have to shoot them sometimes. He's just become a big angry monster. Everyone's like, what's happening? There's a moment. Herman explains basically like his ether's gone out of control, but apparently it's causing some kind of energy accumulation within him. And it's because it's become this crazy fusion. And suddenly the Eden Zero has to take off. They're like, well, are you just abandoning us? They're like, no, it's because Satellite Blaze has activated from the last arc.
Sorry. You described, like the reaction to Drac and Joe as what's happening. And honestly, that's kind of like, that's just like this entire chapter. Like, what's happening?
Yeah. So the satellite's activating. Drac and Joe with his big crazy eyes is like, ha ha, kill everyone, ha ha ha. So he's lost all aspects of him that were even remotely interesting. Then he is, I guess they're just breaking out through different areas. His little tentacles actually pop through the screen, it looks like, and they start ripping through and tearing through people. So Witch and the other, it's actually just Witch, Sister, and Hermit, because Homura's down the planet. They have to go and stop the satellite, so that's what they're going off to do. And they're like, we're just going to trust Sheik, you can do this. We cut back down to the group that went down to destroy the chamber. They need to get out of there because the building's all falling apart. There's a moment where it looks like Pino's going to get crushed by a big rock, but Sabir saves her. And she at first is like really horrified because she had suffered a lot because of him. But she thinks back to what Weiss had said about, this not being the same Sabir as they know him. And, she basically says like, I guess, thank you very much, essentially. And he smiles and they have a little moment.
But she has a moment where she thinks to herself, that's an anomaly. I recall him Weiss saying that, but it's not in my memories.
So she's able to record.
Because that was in the other timeline where Weiss said that, the 29th instead of the 30th.
So maybe there's something there. Maybe robots can go through time. Then we get a bunch of really gross stuff because Rebecca's being attacked and it's a big tentacle monster who's going everywhere. So there's a bunch of tentacle grabbing stuff, and it's of course her and Homura.
Yeah, Chris, this is one of the most popular Pokemon.
Apparently, Lickitungue's very popular in Tai, as we found out. Drac and Joe's is there. He's going to suck everybody's life force. Nobody could try to stop him. Shiki and Wise are powerless against him. He's just beating them up and down. Weiss is basically kind of knocked unconscious completely. Drac and Joe turns one of his tentacles, like he uses alchemy power to turn part of himself into a gun, We get some really disturbing images of Homura and Rebecca being attacked by the tentacles. Like one's literally like fish hooking her in the mouth. It's very gross. It'd be more.
One of them is ripping Rebecca's shirt off, and is like, "What the
I
fuck?"
would say, like in my mind, I was like, "Wow, it's kind of savage." The idea that it's like really just like ripping them apart, but then you're like, "No, it's to do it in sexy ways," and then it's awful, and I hate it.
It's only the girls that are being groped this way. Like Weiss and Shiki are being attacked by the tentacles, and it's going bah, 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 bah. And when it attacks the NPC, the unimportant characters earlier, it just like spears them and kills them.
It's very bad. So Shiki has a gun pointed to his head, and I don't know. I guess he just.
So before we get into this weird, confusing bit, sorry. Just the fact that Draken Joe takes part of his mass and uses his alchemy powers to turn it into a gun so that then he can hold the gun. It's just like, why don't you just like transform that tentacle into a gun and then
he transforms it into a little tiny hand so he can hold a gun. It's very because hey Nick, that's not just Draken Joe the monster in there. That's Draken Joe the gangster, Draken Joe the DJ. Draken Joe, everything. So I actually forgot to mention it. There's one scene where all the like various different Draken Joe creatures are like talking because they all have a whole thing like, I am Draken Joe, I'm undead. I really wanted one to be like, I'm a DJ.
it's just on the turntable.
One I'm like, wicka. Everyone's like, yeah, he's part of us too, I guess. I don't know.
Or what, like if one of them was there and he's like, I never kill people as long as they're useful. And the other one's like, I love killing people. Kill.
So Shiki has a gun pointed at his head, and he seems to have a flashback to what he said in World 29 right before he died, where he said, someday I will beat you, and then I'll be your friend, you friendless jerk, which is a weird thing to say right now. Maybe he will become his friend, or maybe he won't. Either way, bullets fired. It's like that scene in Superman Returns where it's like, in slow motion kind of moving towards them. We have a collage of flashbacks of everybody's grief when Shiki died before. The bullet starts dropping. He says, you won't have a someday. Draken Joe back in World 29. And then Shiki responds today. Someday is today. And then a bunch of glowy stuff happens, and he metamorphoses.
Well, he used his gravity powers to force the bullet to fall into the ground before it could.
The bullet fell because presumably his gravity powers, and he begins to glow and change, and suddenly he's activated, I guess, the true overdrive, and he says, I will never make my friends cry again. So he now has white hair, and his arms are black, and he looks like he has, like, maybe horns or something. It's kind of tough to tell. He's gone Super Saiyan, essentially. He's activated his overdrive, and...
It's a dumb chapter. It's a bad chapter.
It's weird. There's parts of it that should be kind of good, but it's weird that... I didn't pick up on the Pino thing before, because I read this chapter right before we started this podcast, or the stream today, so... I didn't give it like a full once for. But it's weird that that's in there in the same chapter that Shiki also seems to have some ability to recall what happened in that other world.
Yeah, and I mean, presumably we'll get a thing that's... Because the explanation for why this is happening with Draken Joe, literally, like, they ask Kermit about it, and she's like, I don't know. Yeah. So maybe the explanation we get for why people suddenly have memories from another timeline that they shouldn't have anymore is going to be completely unsatisfying, or maybe there won't even be one. It's very strange and out of nowhere that this is it just suddenly happens, and I just that whole sequence with Shiki is like that's supposed to be his big badass thing of like I'm never gonna make my friends cry again, and it's just so lame because Shiki's lame, and yeah he has horns now. Cool, whatever.
Hey, we got a $10 donation in from Cynthia Rill. Thank you very much, Cynthia. You're awesome. Now get back to folding shirts if you're listening. She works at the store I work at. So, yeah, I don't particularly love this chapter. It's really bad. All the stuff with Rebecca and Homura is really gross and not good. And Draken Joe has completely lost everything that made him interesting. I guess Shiki's new form could look cool. I don't know. Like, it's a weird chapter. I don't really get why Shiki is responding to the stuff that happens. I mean, they could explain it next chapter. Maybe some reason the timelines are blending, but it is weird that he's responding to his own statements from that timeline.
Yeah. All right. Bone Collection.
Bone Collection is ready.
Chapter 6. I don't want to hurt you. So they're going on the mission thing that Abe has told them to do. And as Abe and Dickbag and Pyra are on their way, Kazuha, I think that's his name, are on their way. Pyra is singing to herself in a really, like, apparently awful sounding song about vomiting.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to see Bei, the Shutendoji, and Pyra is happy because Bei is her friend. And she says, yeah, every single time that I had one of my stupid yokai battles, he would always join me for drinks, and we would drink until we vomited, and that makes me want to sing, I guess. And Kazuha is like, you have friends? Okay. So she's curious also as to why Bei is being targeted by exorcists. Abe transforms into her muscle form to kind of intimidate her, I guess. And Pyra says, well, I'm going to find Bei and talk to him about this, and I won't let some kid put a hand on him. But she's also very intimidated by Abe. So they show up at a mansion that they've tracked Shutendoji to. And Pyra calls out to him, just goes out and is just like, hey, it's Pyra. Meanwhile, Reno, a wild Reno has appeared. I'm jealous. Oh, sorry, let me do that. Jealous. I can't believe it.
I like the dedication to the bit.
I didn't mean to go that high. So, while that's happening, some Oni come out of the house, and Kazuha's like, "Oh no!" But Abe casts a binding barrier around the kids so that they'll be protected. There's a whole bunch of them. Abe grabs Reno and rushes off with her because that's what Reno does. She gets kidnapped, and Abe's like, "I'm going inside, so you guys take care of the Oni. Do not worry, if you raise your synchronicity, you'll win. Your synchronicity levels are low, which means you've only been using 1% of your potential. Your feelings aren't in sync."
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So it's a good thing that she knows that, I guess. She knows a lot about this forbidden spell, anyway. So Pyra warns Abe, hey, don't lay a hand on Bei because he doesn't hurt people. But Abe doesn't seem to really listen to her. Pyra pulls open her uniform, boobs, fan service, and she's like, use a bone so we can defeat these minions. And Kazami, that's his real name. Whatever, I don't care. Kazami refuses to pull a bone from Pyra's body and instead uses these seals to stop the Oni in their tracks. Because you see, Chris, he's completely useless at doing anything that an exorcist is supposed to do except the forbidden yokai spell, which is why all of the spells that he uses work perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Pyra gets mad at him, and he says, well, I don't want to use the power of your bones. And Pyra says, well, you can't win, though, without them. And so Kazami says, well, actually, these Oni, or I guess Pyra says that, whatever. Abe flies like Superman through the window after dumping Reno on the fucking floor. And Reno gets up and is like, children, go home. And they're like, who are you, ma'am? And she's like, how dare you use a word that implies that I'm older than 12 to describe me? And they say, what do you mean go home? Go home where? Our home is right here. And they have creepy eyes.
Nick, it's spooky. It's Boone Collection. Marco.
I assume you're doing that because you don't think the series is going to
What do
survive.
you mean? No, the
October.
series is going to live on forever. So what if there's 4 new series coming out of Jump like in the next month?
This isn't one of the ones that's going to be canceled.
No, but the ones that were the buffer are definitely going to be gone.
So Abe is walking through the halls of this mansion. Someone with a luchador mask that has a unicorn horn coming out of the forehead says, "Hey, you, what did you do with my mansion and my kids, exorcist?" And Abe's like, "I guess I'm here for something like illegal trespassing into the human world. Oh, you seem really mad to see me. Oh, I get it." And they start to, like, fight. Kazami now has to fight Pyra and the Oni because she's like grappling on him, being like, "Use my bones, use my bones, use my bones." And Kazami's like, "No!" And even as she forces his hand to touch her, it kind of like is blasted away. And she's like, "It's like your hand is repulsed." And then she throws a big freaking crying fit on the ground. It's like she's Reno now. And so she's like, "You only think of me as a yokai now, man." And Kazami's like, "Hey, come on, stop and think. These Oni are protecting Bei, so maybe they're his friends. And if that's the case, I wouldn't want your friends' getting hurt." And he, like, bridal style carries her and starts running away from the Oni as this giant explosion rips out of the house. And Pyra realizes these are Bei's mud dolls. They're Shikigami, not yokai. And Kazami's like, "Oh, well, why didn't you say so?" And Pyra's like, "Because you were so gallant and cool just now." And she's blushing. And Kazami's like, "Why are you blushing?" It's like, she said she would marry you, you dumbass. So...
Oh, my God.
She's like, "Now pull out the bone!" And Kazami's like, "All right." And there's like a decal on her chest now. And so it's like, "Oh, this intense spiritual energy, it's much more than it was before. It's like 5 times greater, 5% instead of 1%. And he pulls out another katana. I thought they were all supposed to be different. He pulls out another katana and cuts up a bunch of the Oni. Yay.
Huzzah.
Everyone in the series is an asshole.
So there was a moment I almost thought this was going to end up being a good chapter. When Kazami is like, "Hey, wait, don't just, like, the reason I'm not just taking out your bone and fighting people is because clearly these people are protecting him. These might be his friends." He's thinking of yokai the same way he did when he befriended that cop away at the start of the series, where he's like, they could be real people, they're not all monsters. So this should have been a heroic moment for him, as opposed to being a weird romantic moment, because it doesn't work as a romantic moment at all. Like, Pyra is already supposed to be in love with him, and I guess that this could make her be more in love with him, but it's not really working as a romantic moment. It should be a heroic moment that shows why Kazama is supposed to be, like, a good person. And then they just very quickly are like, "Oh wait, no, they're just dolls, kill them." And then he kills them, and that's a chapter. And you're like, fine. I get why it's romantic, because it's like, hey, this whole thing we just arbitrarily introduced is like, you need to be more simpatico with your person, and that way you can get more power. But
the more they want to bang, the stronger they'll be, Chris.
Yeah, it just doesn't really work as a romantic moment at all, and it becomes very exhausting when you have to sit through it. I'm very tired.
Yeah.
No good.
Also tired in general. Mashle, Magic and Muscles.
Cream Puffs.
Chapter 18.
Got one for every one of them. We gotta get one for every one of them.
I can't object to that at all either. It's like, that's not an appropriate.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about.
Chapter 18, Mash Vanded and the Magic Scale. Bolty Brows guy wakes up in, presumably, like, I'm not sure if it's his dorm or, like, the hospital. I think it's supposed to be the hospital because there's, like, curtains. Anyway. Not the hospital, the infirmary, I should say. And so he realizes, like, "Oh my god, I'm human again. How did that happen?" And he hears noise and he looks over, and Mash is on the floor doing various exercises. I think that he's doing those, like, twisting sit-up things, which are murder. And he's like, so Baldy Brows is like, "What the hell are you doing?" And Mash is just like, "I'm working on my exterior obliques." Yeah.
Yeah, he's being very true to himself. He's absolutely doing.
Baldy Brows guy is like, "Why? I was your enemy." And Mash says, "I guess, but when one of us is in trouble, we're all in, and he bites his tongue and blood shoots out of his mouth. Just for no reason.
He was saying a natural thing, and he bites his tongue. He's like, I gotta go now.
Just leaves. And leaves Bolty Brow's guy to think about what Mash just said. We cut over to the Lang dorm. Alder?
Yeah,
Lang?
Alder is the good guys. Lang is the bad guys.
Alder dorm. Adler dorm. Sorry, my mistake. Lance is sitting there along with... They don't call him Barrett, even though Barrett's easier to remember. But I'm going to call him that until I remember what it is. And they're kind of like staring at each other, and they're not really happy to see each other. And Lance observes, "What do you think you're doing here? And did you change your hairstyle?" And yes, he did. He's got like bangs, but he still wears the Renji headband, so it looks really awkward. Like, that's supposed to keep stuff out of your eyes, dude. What are you doing, like, putting stuff deliberately beneath the headband?
He's got to be his own weird thing, I guess.
So, and Barrett declares that Lance is going through life on easy mode because he's that kind of character, basically. They get angry at each other for a little bit, although Lance expresses this by being nonplussed by everything. They look like they're going to fight. And just as they're about to come to blows, and Finn is freaking out that they're going to fight in the middle of the dorm, and he's asking them to go outside, Mash comes in, and he's holding the broken door just the way he was when he went into the Lang dorm before. And he's like, "Yeah, guys, what if you broke something?"
It's without fail recently that there's a moment when reading Mashle, I just stop and start laughing. And the moment where he walks, there's no sound effect to it all. It's just him clearly holding a door he's broken off the hinges. And you can't help but fucking laugh at it.
What if you guys broke something? But afterwards, Barrett takes out a little gift bag with a ribbon on it and offers it to Finn. And Finn's like, "What is this?" And he's like, "Look, I don't impose on people without bringing a gift." And so Finn's kind of blown away by this. Like, he's actually got really good manners. And it turns out that the gift is herbal tea. And so Barrett's just like, "Sample the aroma one. It's my favorite." There's weird layers to these characters. So they're all gathered around together, the four of them. And Lance says, "We need to strategize how to acquire coins." And Barrett says, "And I need a girlfriend." I mean, okay. At that moment, Lemon comes in, and she makes a very Air Gear comment. Like, this is the most Air Gear that I think Mashle has been, because she sees the four of them and she's like, "4 men and one of me. How could you?" And she just like clutches herself defensively, and it's like, what the fuck?
It's a very strange moment.
Fortunately, I do appreciate it, because Air Gear would never do this. You know, Finn just goes, "What? You're the one who came in here. What are you talking about?" You know, just like calling her out on how weird that this is. And fortunately, Lemon immediately recovers, and she's like, "Oh, I came for a reason." And so she brings them all over to this magic scale in the hall. And this is like the hourglasses in
No. It's a scale. It's very different. It's enough different you can't sue us. You fucking prejudiced bitch.
But anyway, there is a display in the hallway that very clearly shows how many gold coins each dorm has gathered. And so Lang dorm is in the lead at 15. The other two dorms have 1 each. And of course, the one belonging to Adler belongs to Mash. I am kind of curious about the one Orca gold coin, because I get the feeling that eventually they might become a bit more important. So she kind of recaps what's going on with, what Lang's trying to do and stuff. And she also mentions that Lang upperclassmen who could stop them are away from school on internships. So that implies that further down the line, there could be, more powerful students who are just away right now. And that's why they're not influencing this struggle for coins, which is a cool, just a nice little line to leave out that you can come back to later. And Lemon also notes that Orca cares more about research than competition, so it's up to us to put a stop to this. And Barrett is just like, Lemon's so sweet. He's barely paying attention. And then he gets upset when Lemon says that she's counting on Mash, and Mash is just like, okay.
Sure.
So they all pose together, the 4 guys.
Well,
and
I think it's more worth noting the 3 of them pose. Finn just happens to be there.
Finn's just standing there.
Finn's just present.
He's not with them. Finn's not with them because they're, Lance and Barrett and Mash all pose together, and they're all doing something cool, adjusting their uniforms, leaning over. Mash is putting on like weights on his wrists, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do this." And Finn's just like, "Yeah, good luck with that." However, immediately after Mash declares, "These muscles will flex in the name of peace," which is a hell of a sentence, we suddenly cut to him in like a conservatory of owls. Nothing like this is in Hogwarts, shut up. So, but he recalls that, oh right, there was a bit of a very light punishment that he had to actually endure recently that was given to him by Wahlberg. So, and so as a result of that, he's kind of being delayed in terms of actually taking action in this coin war. But Lance also shows up and he's like, "Hey, you're a target because you've got a gold coin, so I'm gonna help you out in case they come." And Mash is like, "Oh, you care about me that much?" And I don't make me kill you.
I will note we did just get a donation, a $5 donation from Carito Prime, who says, "Fuck J.K. Rowling's trans rights." Absolutely, my man.
I did really like your tweet that you made earlier this week.
Wait, now that we have Mashle, we just don't need Harry Potter anymore. It's fine. It's fine. We could just forget Harry Potter existed because we have a better version now.
We cut over then to 2 of the members of the Langdorm elite, the Magus Noct or whatever they were called.
Yeah, the Lupus fucking 12 or some shit like that. Yeah.
That thing that Mash made up when he was young.
Magia
right?
Lupus or something like that.
I think that's it. So, or Magia Noctis. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So there's 2 of them. There's a big bald guy with a weird face and eyes that stare in opposite directions, and then there's more of a pretty boy who's got this like peacock-styled giant circular blade. The bald guy, Allure, the other one says to him, "Did you know? Once time passes, it never returns." And Allure says, "Yes, everyone knows that. Please stop acting as if you're making a profound statement. It wastes time."
Just the idea. You see this character, he looks like this big, crazy, insane guy. His eyes are going off in 2 different directions. He's just like, "Arr, arr, arr." And then like the pretty boy, and he says something, he's like trying to be cool. And then suddenly the big tough dude's like, "Yes, everyone knows you're saying nothing of interest to anyone."
Everyone knows that. You're wasting time by saying this.
I just love how fucking... It just caught me completely off guard. I did not expect that.
MASH is a very funny series, and you should read it.
Yes. Oh my god. I love this chapter. A couple weird points, but this is still just such a fun series. Again, it's another chapter that got a huge laugh out of me while reading it. And those just feel so special every time I see one.
I do feel a little bad every time we recap it because I'm basically just being like, guys, listen to how fucking funny this story is.
I'm like, guys, you come to this podcast for entertainment, but there's a funnier series out there you should be checking out.
Chris, do we have any more donations? Can we just not?
It's going to require people to start making donations now before you get... I guess not. You guys got to talk about to use it.
Mission Yozakura family, mission 38.
Pew, pew! Winner. I'm boring. One for all of them.
Was that the one you did?
I don't remember what I did last week, so I made up a new one.
Winners and losers. So Tayo is at school with his wife, and they're just hanging out, doing nothing. And Musume's trying to be cute with him by trying to get him to kind of do Lady and the Tramp on some Pocky with her. And we get this narration that says, there are two kinds of spies in the world. Ones who've been traded in an unfair environment, like the Yozakura family, and get to be a lovey-dovey with a cute wife. Winning spies who get ranked first in the up-and-coming rookie spy pool. And ones who weren't born in a good family, don't have any skills, and have been turned down over 100 times straight by girls, and get ranked first in the rookie spy who will disappear soon pool. Loser spies. And we see that the narrator is a spy in Mutsumi and Tayo's class who wears a face mask, I guess, because he at least respects social distancing. Anyway, said spy is named Sosuke Michibata, and he's very forgettable. He's Kuroko from Kuroko's Basketball, except that he's a giant dickhead. So, and like he's constantly like reading like. He's reading quote unquote Spy Boy. So he's basically just reading porn in class. And he keeps on reading articles about how to become a ladies' man spy and stuff. And he, at one point in class, just gets really upset about Tayo. And so he swipes his magazine away and replaces it with the Spy Boy magazine. So it looks like Tayo is reading a porno mag. And Tayo's like, oh, where did this come from? And I was like, oh, Tayo's a pervert. And Musumi's just kind of like, you're a boy after all. It's fine. It's understanding partner. Yes. So this apparently to Michibata is the ultimate revenge for Tayo daring to have a good life.
It's very compelling. So, he's making a good, strong case.
Yes. And he talks about how he uses his spy abilities to basically just, make his way through life easily, which is like, if you're a spy, why do you need to go to fucking school? But whatever. He does things like, copy off of people on tests, hack into girls' accounts because he's a creeper, and set traps for those who bump into me and don't apologize because he's so easy to overlook. And he's like, I don't have much of a future in the underworld, but I can get by in normal society. And he's just doing stuff like swiping away food and stuff like that, staring at girls and stuff. But he tries to like get the food that he just stole to a cute girl with a big chest, and somehow a guy manages to take it from him immediately and goes to get the girl instead, and he's like, fuck you, yeah. And he has taken a bunch of secret photos of her, and then he's upset at her because she didn't notice him, so now he's going to delete the pictures that he took of her because that's revenge, ?
It's very interesting.
But he also has been stalking Mutsumi because she was...
God, why is this chapter still going?
And so he's like, he's imagining, like Mutsumi, making out with him and stuff. And Tayo suddenly appears and puts his hand on his shoulder and is like, stop fantasizing about my wife. And turns out that Kyoichiro tipped off Tayo about the spy in the class. And he's like, watch over that useless piece of trash spy because he'll use his spy techniques to make trouble. And Tayo's like, yeah, I noticed you for the first time after he told me about that. And then he just kind of like has this deeply pitying look on his face and says, I guess there are spies out there who are completely hopeless. And Michibata's like, and Tayo actually tries to like be reasonable with him after what he's done to him so far. And he's like, look, just delete the pictures you took of my wife. Why don't you? And, look, you don't beat yourself up so much. We're both spies, And Michibata's like, but you're a main character like you who's fussed over by everyone will never notice a supporting character like me. Stop. Look, if you're going to put freaking incels in your manga, don't piss me off when you do it, okay?
That's a fine line to strike. Is there a way to do it to not make it annoying? Because incels are awful. Look, this character is dumb. We're not technically done this chapter, but this is a dumb character with a gimmick that is not very interesting. I also enjoyed Ishibaru and iShield 21. He wasn't a main fucking character because
I also enjoyed Kuroko in
Kuroko's
Basketball.
Exactly. It's like, look, you can make that character kind of funny that nobody notices them. You don't need to make them a weird, creepy fucking person who just bitches about things all the time. Like another character who's obsessed with Taiyo and Mutsumi. Shocker. We got another one of these in fucking Mission Yozakura Family, and it's so exhausting. We have to be up to like 7 now, right? Like there has to be like 7 of these fucking characters.
He basically vanishes in front of Taiyo's eyes because he's so forgettable, but Taiyo shoots him as soon as he hears a small noise with the taser gun, and then when Michiba tries to run away, he trips over one of the traps he set himself, falls to the bottom of the stairwell. Taiyo tries to help him over. He's like, ah! Mutsumi's passing by, and Mutsumi knows him by name, and she's like, oh, yeah, I remember you. You picked up the eraser for me that one time. She's like, oh, it's an angel. And then his phone falls on the ground, and she sees the secret picture he took of her, and is like, destroy him, Taiyo. And Taiyo zaps him some more, and that's the end of the chapter. It's do something different, please.
Yeah, we've exhausted this. We've exhausted this to death. If this is supposed to be another character supposed to be relevant to the series, maybe. But we've also yet to see anyone outside of the flower guy who showed up for like 2 chapters and has kind of been referenced since then. No one's felt like actually significant to a long run of this series now, which is actually like a decent chunk into the way it's going. So maybe this is someone who's supposed to be around more often, but I really hope not. Or if they do, I guess you kind of have to do like Barrett did, and you just forget the way they were introduced, and they stop really playing into that so much. Because I'm just so tired of these characters who show up for 1 chapter to be really obnoxious to Taiyo and Mutsumi, and it's for some reason supposed to be funny, and then it's done and they never show up again. Like I'm not interested in this anymore.
Time Paradox Ghost Rider.
Ding! Your plagiarism is ready.
I know you did that from last week.
Gotta stick with the classics.
Chapter 4, Counterfeit. So, Teppei has determined after his conversation with Itsuki last week that he has to carry on with doing White Knight, because only he can realize it now after she has basically left it to him. And so we have a brief little summarization of like, hey, in order to make a weekly manga, you need assistants to help you and stuff. And so we're introduced to Teppei's assistants. They are named Genki, a young assistant who has won like a Tezuka award runner-up. So he's very young and energetic, hence his name is Genki. There's a guy with glasses named Hajime, who's very serious and pretty soft-spoken. And then there is someone older guy named Jiro, who basically, over the course of the series, of the chapter, basically takes over as lead editor pretty quickly because he has the most experience of everyone. He's worked as a chief assistant before, and he knows a lot of stuff and is very good at planning stuff out. Yamane is what they refer to him as, basically. And the last assistant is Itsuki.
All right. Wasn't expecting that necessarily.
So that's one way of keeping her involved in the story. And so she's like, hey, we happen to have the same idea for the series, so I figured I would help you to make it as good as it possibly can be. And so this is interesting because I wasn't expecting this. And also, now that there is, the point of this chapter basically is that there is now this additional pressure on Teppei to make White Knight as good as possible because the creator of White Knight is there, even if it's not the same creator that he is stealing it from. So Itsuki's like, gives her whole spiel for all this and stuff. We quickly have like dynamics evolving between the characters where Yamane is the one who's kind of got everything figured out. Genki and Itsuki clash because they're the 2 young people in the group and they're both the most energetic and stuff. And then we've got Hajime there and he's quiet. he's just this tall guy with glasses who occasionally is just like, this is very good.
Excellent.
So they begin to work on getting the manga ready for like serialization. They've got to do the premiere chapter and stuff. And because of all of this pressure that's on Teppei, he keeps on throwing away the art as he's working on it because he's like, it's not good enough. This is disrespectful to both Aino and to the Itsuki Aino in 10 years. And so he's, thinking to himself, like, maybe I could tell her the truth. Maybe I could suggest she draw it. But what's she going to do? Copy a manga she herself is going to draw in 10 years and publish it, read the one shot and then make up the rest from there with a decade-less experience? What if she doesn't want to do either of those things? Then I'll hurt her feelings for nothing. The desire to apologize would do nothing but suit my own ego. So he's caught in this situation where he feels like he has to carry on doing this himself. The problem develops quickly, however, because he is getting himself to doing this, and also he is giving himself very high standards to live up to, because as it turns out, and all the assistants agree, Aino is a prodigy, and Teppei is not. They don't agree on that point, but they agree on the first point. So it's Aino, a prodigy with 10 years more experience, made this manga. So yeah, of course, Teppei's is not going to be as good as it. And because he's putting that pressure on himself, they're running into delays because he's like, I don't have a single page done yet. But they're looking up through the pages and stuff that are scattered around him, and they're like, no, you've got some really good stuff here. It's so much better than the one shot, and we could start working from this. And he's like, no, it's not good enough. Let me redraw it. So they're like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Because do we have enough time for him to redraw this and then for us to work in the backgrounds? And so Yamane comes up with the idea of, well, we can use the stuff that he's already worked on as a base, do the backgrounds from what he has done, and then he'll work on the new artwork, and then we'll combine it together using computer technology. And so it's like, that's a really good idea. So they do that, and then half of the time left until the deadline passes, and they're like, it's done. It's great. It looks great. It looks good. It looks better than before. And then Teppei, they are all looking over, and he asks Aino, what do you think? And she kind of hesitates for just a moment, and then she smiles and says, it's really great. It's perfect. And Teppei stares at her for a second, looks down at the pages that she's got, grabs them all, and tears them in half. And he says, it's not enough. And they are down to 9 days before the deadline, and they have 0 finished pages.
So it's interesting. I do like that, we're seeing this Teppei is so dedicated to this idea. We're kind of seeing what we saw in the first chapter where he's like, I'm going to push myself. And seeing that because he doesn't have a magical microwave right now to just give him the next chapter, he's panicking because he's worried now that she's there. It creates this idea in his mind that he has to create something that's worthy to the vision she created because he loves this manga so much. And I do like how it's pushing him. There's not really a ton to say about this chapter. Of the 3 new editors or assistants they introduced, it feels like only one is probably going to be really all that relevant. But who knows? We still have a lot of it. I do like Ayano. I think it's a very fun twist for her to be involved now as a assistant on the story, and I do just like the subtle touch too that there's a moment she looks at it, he's watching her expression. The next one is like, yes, I think it's really great, it's perfect, and he realizes he's like, nope, it's not enough. I didn't get that reaction out of you the way you gave to me. So
yeah, I do really like that because of her presence there. Teppei is running into that perfectionist problem that a lot of artists and creative people have, which is he has something done that is more than good enough, but because it doesn't meet the standards he has set for himself, he is not going to put it out, and it's costing him because he's running out of time. And I do like the way that the sci-fi element of it, with the time travel paradox, and that the past Aino being there to kind of act as that needling point for him, introduces a problem that most people just create internally.
Yep.
So it's cool.
All right, Nick, let's talk about We Never Learn. Question 161. X equals Sleeping Beauty of the Literary Forest Part 2. Hubba hubba. What are you doing?
You didn't say pizza pet.
Oh shit. X equals
that means you forfeit.
Shit. No, there's my third. This week on We Never Learn, Firmino in the mirror. Oh, we got real close to that. X equals Sleeping Beauty at Literary Forest. So Firmino opens his chapter and she's working on her hair. Then Yuega shows up. He's like, good morning. Thank you for having me again. Firmino's father's like, why are you here today? He's like, yep, I'm going to work hard. He's like, your mom suggested it, but please, no funny business. Her dad's like, hey, don't treat Yuega like that. And he's like, yeah, this is coming from a girl who nearly spent an hour in front of the mirror this morning. She's like, what? No, I didn't do anything like that. Honestly, I just rolled out of bed like this. My hair's a total mess right now.
Oh, look at these very natural, fashionable curls in my danglies.
It just rolled out of bed just like that. Yuega's like, don't worry, you're just the same as ever. And just for me to like, you son of a bitch. We cut over. Yuega's helping her do the study and everything like that. She's just like, kind of like, oh yeah, I'll make the correction right away. Goes to reach for her erase, actually jumps off the table, and Yuega like a dive bomb lunges across the table.
He volleyball saves it. He digs it out.
Yeah, and like a big Sojo moment, like when he's surrounded by pedals, he holds up the eraser. He's like, "Your eraser, you drop this." It's just, I love Fumito being like, "What? Thank you." What's happening? Then, of course, he's just like, oh, is your ankle okay? We really need to be careful with this. I want to support you with every little thing. And, we see times pass. He brings out some sandwiches. And she's just like, wow, you didn't even used to be confident in the kitchen. He's like, oh, my sister's been teaching me. Hope you like it. And she goes to take a bite. And he's like, no, if you eat too quickly, you might disturb your ankle. I'll take responsibility for feeding you. And I like her response. Why would a sandwich disturb my ankle? But he's like, you might have a point, but just to be safe, I better feed you.
The way he's planning on feeding her, he doesn't like have the sandwich chopped up into little bits. He just is holding the other half of the sandwich between a pair of tongs, and they're like, "Here you
go." So yeah, he's like, "I'll take responsibility for feeding you. Just focus on your studies." She's like, "Oh, so you're gonna feed me then?" And then he like swoops her up in her arms, basically, and he's like, ha, leave this to me. I'll carry you off to the bathroom. It's just like karate chops. And she's like, hey, you're taking this too far now. It's just my ankle that's injured. I can still handle things on my own. You don't have to worry about that. He's like, oh, okay. Well, I'll make you a smoothie then. It's supposed to be good for brain and injuries. So she's like, man, he's really overprotective. He gets away taking care of people, but he's so cute when he's earnest. It's a little hard on my heart. And then she starts daydreaming. She's like, so if I married Yuega, would it be like this every day? And she imagines herself as a mother, and Yuega's walking by with like a basket full of laundry, and she starts blushing. She's like, oh, what's wrong with me? I'm being stupid. I can't, because of my friends, everything like that. And besides.
Well, honestly, I mean, like, you probably would.
Yeah, oh yeah. And she's like, what am I doing? Besides, it's not like Naruyuki likes me. He just feels responsible for my injury. That's all this is. If it weren't even for this injury, he wouldn't even be here right now. And he's like, oh, why are you spacing out? So she goes to get a glass of to grab a glass of juice from him, the smoothie, which I guess is entirely liquid. And she spills it on herself. So she's like, eek. So he's helping her dry off, takes her to the bathroom. Whole thing, she's like, it's my fault. I was being clumsy. I'm so clumsy. And then she's like, I don't think this towel's really working. I'm going to need to wash it out of my hair. Yuega's like, oh, okay, well, I'll go outside. She's like, no, you don't need to go outside. So she basically takes advantage of the fact that he was willing to do everything for her to let him wash her hair for her. So he's doing that whole thing. He's like, let me know if it itches anywhere. She's like, I feel so good. And she immediately starts feeling guilty about herself, which probably she should. This is kind of a weird way to extend this thing, but she's saying, I'm taking advantage of his kindness and being selfish. I'm so sorry. Until this injury heals for just a little bit longer, I want his attention. I know it's meaningless, but it's just so frustrating. And Yuega says, sorry, Fumino, after all you did to make your hair so nice today. And she stops. She's like, what do you mean? You said it looks the same as always. He's like, yeah, by which I mean you're as beautiful as ever, which is obviously a much better way to have responded to someone saying their hair looks nice than.
Should have said that the first time, buddy.
So he's like, oh, you know what? I'm not trying to say, insinuate anything or be weird by just a general statement or anything. And he's like, I feel bad for messing up your hair. I don't know a lot about it, but it must be hard making it work to hard work to make it look so pretty every day. And she's like, well, I guess us girls just put a lot of effort into grooming. And then she's like, oh man, when I think about if it was to get Yuega to call me beautiful, all the effort seems worth it. So he says it's kind of weird. It's almost like I'm a hairdresser and you're a client. And Fumito says, I think it'd be more appropriate or more fun if you said it's like we're a couple. Yuiga's like, what? And Fumito's like, nah, shit. I said the quiet part loud. And then she goes to like be like, oh wait, no. She's like, if I give him brain damage, he won't be able to remember what I said. So she slips. There's a big thing to get all mixed up there. She's just like, oh no, that was just one of my female psychology lessons. That's all it was. Yuiga's looking away because we have to do the see-through shirt joke for the 9th time in this series with Fumino. So he basically, she even says, now I'm getting extreme deja vu, because I legitimately think this has happened at least 5 different times with her throughout this series.
This in particular with the sweaty, this has happened multiple times.
So basically, Yuiga leaves for the day. He's like, hey, dinner's in the fridge, everything like that. And she says, so thanks for everything today. And he's like, yep, see you tomorrow. She says, yep, see you tomorrow. And she keeps thinking, until this injury heals, I wish it could last longer. I wish we could always say, see you tomorrow to each other. So no little joke or anything like that at the end of the chapter, a little sweet moment.
Yeah. I do like the absolute lovesickness that Fumino displays so far in this story arc. And it definitely feels much more like an extension of the story as we had before. Than what we got with Yogata stuff. So I didn't think that this chapter was great, but I do appreciate the kind of continuing tone that we've got. And there were a couple of sweet moments. I do really like the part where after she's fallen into him, they start to remark, no, it actually really does feel like we're a couple, but they kind of cut it off and stuff. So there's that real sense of tension to it.
Yes.
And of course, and I'm sure that like if you're really big into Yuiga and Fumino, and this were to have like happened properly within the course of the series, then this would have been a really big ship teasy moment. So I thought that this was effective, but it wasn't great. So, all right, Dr. Stone.
Time to get stoned. An oldie but a goodie.
153 war game. So this is the first 2 pages have nothing to do with the rest of this chapter, but still. So Magma gets this big stupid look on his face and he's like, come on guys, let's evaluate the state of this war. And he calls over Yo and his LeFou guy. Mantle, I think is his name. Anyway. So, Yo is like, it's really weird whenever you speak politely. It freaks me out. And Magma says, shut up or I'll kill you dead. So, immediately he says, listen, no, I'm out to kill that piece of crap. I'm out to kill that piece of crap they call Dr. Zeno. We came here for corn. Dr. Zeno's got the corn. The quickest solution is to kill the guy. Duh. And Yo's like, what the hell's wrong with you? But then Magma's like, well, hey, if we use your gun, the 3 of us can take care of the problem really fast. And and you know what? This isn't a reckless rampage. It's a well thought out strategy. And basically they put the idea in his mind of everyone bowing to Yo for saving the day. And so the 3 of them run off like stupid little kids down the ramp. And then immediately Nikki is walking back with them under her arms and over her shoulder with giant lumps on their heads.
Very good. It's very funny.
So, and she just calls them all saying like, you idiots, you can't deal with someone who's got a machine gun. And afterwards, Tsukasa says the exact same thing that Magma did. Let's evaluate the state of this war. But of course he sounds way cooler than Magma. Anyway, in order to assess the state of the war, they make a hex grid, like a bunch of fucking dorks.
They create their D&D map, and they have to analyze where the most encounters will show up.
And also, they're trying to gather resources, so it's like Settlers of Catan.
Yeah, extra nerd points.
So, they're trying to figure out exactly what's going on, but Ukyo and because they ask the question, do we know where the enemy base is? And Ukyo says, well, if we use the directions we got from Chrome's call, that we can make a rough estimate that it's here. And they're trying to figure out what to do. And Ginro brings up, well, if they know where we are, maybe we should run off on the Perseus. And Ukiyo says, well, the enemy has a spy plane, so that'd be pointless. Sailing away would cut us off from land-based escape routes. And Ginro immediately is like, oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Just what I was thinking.
Tsukasa asks Hyoga, if you were Dr. Zeno, how would you approach this?
It makes sense. Hey, you were a supervillain at one point. How would you do things?
Well, I would become the second in command of the place, and then at the opportune moment try to betray and kill him.
Yes, that's exactly what you would do. Now, in this situation, what would you do?
Who's the second in command right now? I'll be that guy. So Hyoga says that in this situation he would build a pirate vessel, and given the clear firearm advantage, he would use a smaller, quicker boat to board the Perseus and take control of it, because the larger ship is kind of a sitting duck. Or they could use a spy plane to learn the exact location and just gun it down from the air. And they also bring up there's no way that they're going to just engage in close combat like they did before, because they had no idea what we had in our arsenal. Now they know we can fight back. They'll play it safer by staying out of our range. So their main option is to just get the aircraft they've captured up in the air so that they can have a dogfight. Hence, they're going to go forward with their plan they mentioned last time of turning the Perseus into an aircraft carrier, which means dumping one of the sails immediately. It's gone. Bye. So they do that. They're working on setting stuff up. They're trying to build a runway. And Ryusui and Senku are just freaking out over just being giant military dorks, basically, about how they're going to get this plane off of the ground. They also surmised from the construction of the plane that Zeno's forces don't have a lot of rubber, because the plane has glass skis like a water landing plane. I forget exactly what that's called. Whatever.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna ask me,
nautical.
If you're asking me, you're asking the wrong person. I'd be like, ship shoesies.
So they don't have wheels, basically, and so that's something that they have the advantage over, is the fact that they have bamboo from Japan, which is not common over in the Americas. So
wait,
they basically are using that.
Is that bamboo plant I bought fake then? They told me it was real. So, tangent, because that's what this podcast is. Recently, I was playing board game night with the Beth that was in the chat earlier and everything. Her and her husband and another one of our friends. We were playing a couple board games, and they were like, "Wow, you're so good at like this one game or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, it's just I'm only good at useless stuff essentially." And I made a joke. I was like, "Yeah, I don't know how to like change the oil in my car." And they started talking like, "So what do you do?" And I was mentioning like, "Oh, I go to like a Jiffy Lube that's nearby." So like, doesn't Jiffy Lube rip people off? I was like, "No, I don't think they ever really do that." And they're like, "Isn't one of the big things like changing your air filter?" I was like, "Well, yeah, they did tell me to get my air filter changed the last time I was in there. They brought mine and it looked filthy." And they're like, "Do you know what your air filter looked like?" I was like, "No, I don't." And one of the guys just mentioned, they're like, "Yeah, I think one of the things they do too is like windshield wipers is like, you know, I think they did say they were going to replace my windshield wipers too." And I'm like, did I walk into that place? And I was just cooing. I was like, cool. Can you fix my car, please?
Cool. This chicken seems like a pigeon to me. The longer you're in there, the more they look at you, the more you're just like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
They're like, oh, we're gonna have to put some more headlight fluid in. I'm like, well, I don't want my headlight fluid to be low.
It was really weird because over the last couple of weeks, I've noticed that my windshield wipers are actually the point where they really need to be replaced. And I'm thinking like, I need to just I'm lazy, so I should just take it to like a car wash place and then they'll do it.
I'm so bad. Now look, I will say, it was an improvement to get those new windshield wipers. I probably did need new ones.
They do fall apart
eventually.
So You don't need to replace as often as
I
most places
definitely
would
feel
like
like I was a big fan, and I was really like praising them. I was like, no, these guys are good. You know, I've been hornswoggled by places in the past, and these guys treat me right, knowing full well that those guys have like.
I went in for a $30 oil change, and after my wallet was $500 later, my car was like.
And $160 later, I left with a new air filter and a new air freshener. That there was like.
Say, though, I've never heard of the practice of bringing someone else a different air filter and pretending it's the person that they're replacing.
There's gotta be a fucking like one that they just have that's covered in like old leaves and dirt, and there's just like a piece of tape on front of it that just says Rube air filter, and they just bring it in whenever they think they have a Rube, and they're like, hey Rube, your air filter needs changed. I'm like, oh my golly gee, that sure looks bad there. Yeah, definitely fix that up.
What you should have done on it, what you should do if anyone ever tries that on you again, is go, did you take that out of my car without me giving you permission to do that? And see how they react.
Yeah, that's too confrontational for me. I would just be like, oh, okay, I guess I need a new one.
You have to be wider, Chris.
God, I can't. It's so bad.
All right. Okay, anyway, get back to the manga. They're talking about this stuff, and they're talking about the modifications to the plane, and the thing that Senku hits on is that, so they didn't have any... Without the wheels, they didn't have any other landing options. So this is what they did instead. And Ryusui realizes, so when he lacked the right materials, he just created a new design. So this guy is pretty sharp. But then he thinks a bit more and he realizes, you know what? If I were a pilot, I could tell... I'm a pilot, and I could tell from the way that spy plane was flying that it was meant to be spotted. It was to be a big display for us to realize we have nowhere to run. So maybe he wants us to sit here. I'm not wrong about this. And we cut over to Zeno's headquarters, and he's like, they cannot escape. Hence the reason we deployed the spy plane to discourage them. And a large woman shows up. Large in like 3 or 4 different senses. I have to say, she's very tall. She is drawn by Boichi. And she is freaking 2% body fat or something like that. She is insanely ripped. And she's eating this big old ham hog as she's talking. And she's like, oh, are you going to beat him into submission? And so Zeno says, I have a solution that's more elegant. I'm going to keep them pinned down and assassinate the enemy scientist, which of course gets Gen freaked out because he knows that they're going to try and assassinate Taiju. And so Zeno says, in order to bring this kingdom down, all we have to do is eliminate their leader, Dr. Taiju. And Gen's like, yeah, but can you pull that off? And Stan just lights up a cigarette and takes a puff and goes, I can. And Gen hesitates for a moment, then he says, how exactly? And Stan just says, I can. Because he's fucking awesome, honestly. It's just so... I don't know why exactly this hit me so well, but it's just like... It's not even like he's confident or bragging. It's like he's resigned to how good he is the way that he is the way his expression looks to me in this picture. Yeah. Anyway.
No, I agree.
And Zeno says... When Stan claims he can get the job done, there's no need to question it, because he can. And Stan runs off in order to do his mission. Gen thinks to himself, oh my god, Taiju's gonna die. And so we cut over to the planning meeting of the Kingdom of Science, and Hyoga brings up, we could give up on the corn, we could abandon Gen and Chrome and Kohaku, and we could sail to sea, and that would save us. And Taiju's like, we're never gonna do that. And Hyoga says, I know that. But the enemy doesn't know that, and that's my point. So Tsukasa realizes, all right, so they're going to try and attack us. So Tsukasa brings up what we're going to do is we need a small elite unit. Dr. Zeno is the source of their science. Our goal is to capture him, which is why we're sending ninjas after him. That's what the little drawing they have is. It's ninjas. So, and the unit that they're going to send out will include Tsukasa, Hyoga, Ukyo, and Suika.
Yep, the dream team.
And I love the first panel that shows the 3 guys standing tall, and then Suika's just like me. So Gen sums up everything, thinking to himself while he's over next to Xeno's side. Neither side can move its base. Neither side can flee. It's a science siege that could turn into a Kingdom of Science versus Kingdom of Science battle, determined with a breakneck attack. And we see Stan rushing off with his mask on, with a machine gun ready, and then the 4 scouts basically rushing off together, and Suika's hopping along in her melon form. So,
yep.
Exciting. There were
very much so.
Like 3 really cool moments in this chapter.
Yeah, I'm excited to see. I forget the army dude's name. Stan. Yeah, I was like, it's something generic and boring. But it's exciting seeing that sort of confidence. It really does build up this idea of like a really terrifying opposing force, especially when you see they like run into battle with like, I'm not a gun person, but it looks like some kind of Gatling gun at the very least. So, or maybe even a flamethrower. So it looks like there's some.
I think it's supposed to be the machine gun we saw before, and you can see the 2 clips behind both of the barrels.
That makes sense. But yeah, it looks really intimidating. I'm very much excited to see how this is going to go down.
Chainsaw Man. Chapter 72. All together. So, Aki announces to Power and Denji that he is going to visit his home in Hokkaido, and he's going to be gone for a few days. And immediately, Denji is like, that's no fair. I want to go. And Power's like, I want to go. So Aki's like, I'm not going for fun. I'm going to be visiting a grave. But Denji says, well, our trip got canceled, so I want to go somewhere. And Power is calmer now than she was before. So they bring up, well, who's going to take... Aki brings up, well, who's going to take care of Meowie while no one's home? So they leave him with... Oh, God, I keep forgetting this guy's name every time I see him. Is that Kishibe? I thought that was... Hang on a second.
I thought it was Kishibe. I might be wrong.
It is Kishibe. All right. So they give Meowie over to Kishibe in a kitty carrier, and they're like, all right, cool. And then she says, what do you want as a souvenir? Alcohol.
That's fair.
Power is basically back to her old self in this chapter. I'm not sure if she was just, grasping for Denji's attention and she got it, so she's, calmer now, or if she just, was able to get past the initial trauma and has kind of suppressed it a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
But, so she is going to, they basically are annoying Aki the entire trip. Like on the plane, she's like stealing Denji's lunch. She's throwing up over the side of the deck. They go on a bus and she's using the ring handholds as like, gymnast rings to do freaking acrobatics. Then they're walking through the snow and they're fucking pelting Aki with snowballs. Eventually they get to his family grave, and he prays for it a bit, and then he looks around and realizes that Denji and Power are gone. He catches up to them, and he's like, "Hey, what are you eating?" And Denji's like, "I stole these grave offerings from some crows." And Power starts spitting stuff up, and she's like, "It was rotten, the power of the darkness, devil." Then they stop. They go inside for the night in an inn. Power's really upset that all they've got to eat are vegetables. And Aki's like, "Well, look, if you can't eat anything, just whatever you can't eat, just put it on my and Denji's trays." And so she's like, this. And she's like, "There's nothing left. I'm hungry." And so she starts drinking Denji's blood. And eventually the two of them kind of pass out. Denji wakes up in the middle of the night and sees Aki staring outside at the snow. And he's like, "Hey, what's up with you? You're all lost in the view?" Aki says, "Shut up." Denji says, "You can't see crap in all this snow." But Aki remarks after a moment, "Every year when I would visit their grave, I'd remember nothing but bad things, and it was depressing. But this time, you guys were such pests that I didn't have the time to get lost in that. And Denji just kind of quiet for a bit, and he was like, "You're welcome."
Hey, you're welcome. Wow.
We cut ahead to the end of their trip, where Aki is back. Kishibe returns Meowie, and he asks how the trip was. And Aki's like, "Well, it was exhausting having those two." But he says, actually they behave a little bit better now because Denji does as I say. Power stopped throwing vegetables. And after a moment of quiet, he says, "Captain Kishibe, the upcoming expedition to eliminate the gun devil. Can Division 4 withdraw from it?" And Kishibe says he's surprised, but he says, you wouldn't be fighting alone. Public safety's best teams are coming together. We should be able to fight even the gun devil on equal footing. But Aki's quiet, and he says, "Well, if you pull out and you close yourself off from getting out here, you'll close yourself off from getting access to the gun devil's location because it's classified. And even if the gun devil gets taken out, that information is going to be kept under a tight lid. You won't know. It'll be years before you'll know the devil that killed your family is dead. Do you still want to back out?" And Aki says, "I'm willing to accept that." So he's like, "All right, well, I'll tell you that you and Division 4 want to stay out of it. It was an experimental unit anyway. It was kind of a joke, so I doubt they were expecting much. You can get our bill in exchange." And Aki's like, "I always pay our bill." That sounds like Aki. Kishibe asks him why he changed his mind, and we get a flash in Aki's mind of Denji and Power on the ground bleeding. And I think these are actually shots that have happened in the series so far.
That's Power when the Darkness Devil came and did everything. And I don't know if that's Denji from around that time too. I think it's Denji from around there too.
Many times Denji's gotten his ass kicked, so and Aki just says, "I got cold feet." Kishibe accuses him of having gotten a lot saner. And anyway, Aki goes home. Power and Denji are there. Power is bonding with Meowie. Denji's like, "I cooked up some super good grub." And Power's like, "I helped too." And they have this weird assortment of vegetable noodles, which Denji says "Yeah, I did that stir fry thing with bean sprouts and sausage and egg and soy sauce." And Aki wants to know what the purple looking thing is. And Denji's like, "I don't know."
No idea.
He refers to it as probably some secret ingredient that Power put in. So they're like, "Hey, you better eat. We worked hard on this." And Aki's like, "Okay." He starts to eat. They ask how it is. And he throws up immediately. And they're like super proud of themselves. Like, "Now we've all barfed."
Oh, man. What a chapter.
It's a sweet chapter because it's like, look at this messed up little family. All these weirdos, and Aki, and they comfort Aki in a weird way through it, and you see that he's come to appreciate them to the point that he's willing to give up his life's goal of vengeance in order to protect them, and it's very sweet.
It's a very sweet sentiment. It's a good chapter. It makes last chapter feel. In a way, you're like, oh, it's only one chapter of Power being like that, but you're like, yeah, that's kind of for how much I enjoy Power, I really don't want her to be moping for a while. I do believe that was something that she was legitimately going through, and we kind of moved past it. We can still see a small influence there when she eats the food. She's like, the Darkness Devil did it. It's something there where you can enjoy it, but it's just fun seeing these characters being so sweet. See, now, it's only been a 72 chapter series so far, and so much character development has happened over the course of it. It's crazy. I really enjoyed it. It was a great chapter.
So The Promised Neverland, chapter 180. You're everything.
Who gives a fuck? I don't remember what I did. I think last time I did the SpongeBob. My leg!
It's so... Rube had asked Emma for her family for the reward. And Emma was like, well, but then he said he had to send my family to the human world, so he couldn't claim it, so he just let me off scot-free. Yay! And everyone was like, we believe you. And then they're like, oh, right, we shouldn't have believed her. And we see that the actual consequences are that he wants to take away basically the concept of her family. He's turned a one more day from Spider-Man on her.
Whoa.
So she's in the human world and in the snow somewhere, and some guy finds her in the snow and takes her in, and Santa Claus has saved her. Hooray! And she can't remember who she is, and she can't remember her family at all. And so she's lost her memories, but there's like an echo of her memories that make her sad because she just knows there's something missing. And also, she's trapped there because, there's no signal out in this wilderness, I guess. And there's like some pictures of her, but like there's no one else in the picture. It's like burnt out somehow. I don't know why she even has the picture at all. That was a weird thing. So time goes by. She spends a month with Santa Claus, and she has like dreams of memories, but everyone's face is erased and they're just all saying Emma. And she's like, "Who's Emma? This place feels nice. Oh, I woke up. I'm sad and alone." She goes outside, and because Santa Claus isn't there, she goes out and she happens to see Santa standing in front of all of these crosses sticking out of the snow. And he's like, "They're my family, my friends, my home. I've lost them all in a stupid war. I alone was left behind in the Crinkle Wars." So they're all dead, but they're still family, and this buried village is still my hometown. As long as I stay here and remember them, I can be with my family and friends. I wish I could search for your family too. If they're alive, you'd want to see them, yes? And it was like, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember anything, so... The inside of my head is like this snow, pure white and blank. But when I look at this necklace, I feel something. The morning after I have that dream, I feel sadness, even though I don't remember anything. Even though I forget the people when I wake up, I feel warmth. I long for them. And without understanding why, it makes me cry. They go into town, and Emma's family is still looking for her, and they like do like an American Tale where they pass by each other, not looking. And this is the second to last chapter of this series, guys.
Yeah. So look, I just want it to end. I don't even necessarily hate this moment. Oh my god. So how do I explain this? This moment could be fine. But the whole premise leading into it is dumb and stupid and shouldn't have happened, and thus I hate it. Like, Emma's little speech here is fine. There's some poetry to it. There's some real tangible sadness to it. But this entire contrived circumstance of, like, I guess actually they did take something and they flung me to a different place and I lose all my memories, and I guess Emma didn't say anything. Like, it's just one of those things you're like, I guess we didn't have to do this. We just did. So I guess that this is what we have to get in response, fine. But I'm so tired of the Promised Neverland, I just want it to end. That's all I can really think about.
Yeah. It's a matter of like you put a certain amount of faith in something. And without faith, you don't have patience for a fictional work. And a fictional work can exhaust your faith and make you just reject anything that it presents you that isn't instantly gratifying when that's been exhausted. And that's what's happening here. There's nothing in particular wrong with what happens in this chapter. It's just kind of asking you to get invested in something else without any payoff again. And you just have to wait for it. And suddenly the next chapter is the last one. It reminds me of the ending of Gravity Falls. For those of you who have watched it, you'll know what I'm talking about. How there was a certain plot point that came seemingly out of nowhere. But that was a very good series from beginning to end, and the finale was also very good. So I was willing to overlook that one moment that I had a bit of a problem with, especially because it was done in a way, it was done for a reason that made sense. It was just resolved in a way that was kind of a cop-out. Yeah. But yeah, so... Someone in the chat has brought up, why did the guy even bring Emma into the human world if he was going to take her memory from her? It's like, I guess that he has to fulfill the promise of putting them all in there, but like, he could have dropped her in the middle of the ocean if you want her to forget. Like,
I guess it's supposed to be a thing like you've like a genie wish. You've lost the thing that was most important to you, and that's the true suffering all along. But like, I don't know.
Anyway, Black Clover.
Let's talk about Black Clover, Nick, whatever your name is. Page 253, Bloodshed. I don't have a thing for it. So the magic of abs. So Verica is floating in the water. She got stabbed. It's real bad. But she's like, nope, it's not enough. Devil power, 50%. I'm stronger now. So she's not down yet. Laura Pachica's like, hey, look, my spell's gonna make it hard for blood to congeal, but like she's still powerful. So like, we're not just gonna beat her by punching her. And we see like a fight going on. Noelle does like some mermaid moves, and Verica's like, I'm all fired up, and she goes up 1%.
All fired up.
Yeah, it's so good. And Noelle's like, whoa, just 1% gave her a phenomenal increase in power. Whoa, it's so crazy. That works.
That's how percentages work.
So she's like, blah blah blah. They have like a big thing. Numbers going up. It's higher. Noelle tries to ask her. She's like, did you come my mother? And she's like, I don't even know who your mother is. I don't care. Maybe I did. Who cares? There's the fight with the tongue guy and Mimosa. I don't know why we're cutting into this. No one cares.
It is a pointless battle. They've told us as such.
So we cut over to like, I don't know, I guess it was yesterday. I don't know when it took place. But Laura Pachica is talking to them, and she's just like, hey, you know what would be really good? Like, we could beat them, because last time they lost and I got cursed, but this time I don't want to beat. So I think you guys make it easier for me to be confident. But right now I'm scared, and I don't want to be scared. It's very sad. So she says she's sad, and we can see Nero's there. And she's like, oh, no, I shouldn't cry in public. And they're like, no, of course you can hug her. There's some fanfic that happens afterwards, but we can't talk about that. So
what are you talking
I don't know, dude. I'm gone. It's all gone. We're just rolling at this point. So we cut it to the present. I don't know why we went to Mimosa. Who cares? But the number's to 65% now. So she's swimming around. She's doing all sorts of stuff. And Noelle's really, she's doing a lot of fighting. And they're like, hey, you gotta get her. You gotta get her as high as you can. Not like in terms of like drugs, but like in terms of like the power she's gonna use. And they're like, this is what we got. This is what we've done. Just what we've been waiting for. So she's like, all right, we flash back to this again. I don't know why we didn't just we flash back again. And she's like, we got to make her use all the devil power that she can use. And because she's such a basic bitch, we know if we just come at her slightly, she's just going to do it, because she's really predictable and dumb. So we just got to survive a fight with her. We'll do it. And they're like, we have a big trump card, and our trump card is the arcane station. And then they stop because it would spoil what was about to happen on the next page, because they use Nero. Nero pops out and she seals her, because that's what she does. And she's like, gotcha, bitch. And that's how the chapter ends.
I'm glad to see Sekre get involved, because she is actually a character that I care about. And that's about it. This was, I mean, I really didn't like the whole, I'm using 50% of my power. 51. 52. 53. So, but, I mean, the entire purpose of this chapter was make it seem as if they had managed to land this sudden killing blow on someone, and they had to explain why, at least. Yeah. Okay.
It's very okay.
One Piece.
Super!
Chapter 981, joining the fight. Kid attacks Scratchman Apu with a bunch of metal, making a giant hand.
No, we're both at that point, aren't we?
So everyone's like, I thought that he was in prison. And they're like, and Queen is very upset about this. It's like, Babanuki, you fucker! You told me that everything was fine over there. So, Kid, of course, is really pissed off at Apu, because like you were gonna You seem to be really eager to join our alliance, and I should have figured out right away that you were an informant for Kaido. And he gets up in his face about this. Appu says, like, what, did you really think that us teaming up would mean that we could, actually defeat one of the four emperors? Wake up. And he uses his voice ability to slash Kid across the stomach. And some random people on the ground are like, hey, Miss Queen, these guys might be tough to take in alive. And Queen's just like, you have permission to kill. So they're like, yay, us nameless losers will def do that. Killer's on the scene as well. A giant dude named Hacha shows up, and he's got a mace, and he's one of the numbers. Numbers 8, it looks like. And, of course, his laugh, wouldn't you know it, is
delicious.
So they're like, oh man, is that guy a giant? He looks even bigger than a giant. And yeah, he's very tall. He's a very tall person. So yeah. Luffy covers a bit for Kid by stopping an explosive arrow of some sort that is shot at him. He says, come on, Jaggy, let's run to the castle. You just had to go and cause a scene, didn't you? And Zoro's like, you're the last one who should be talking, Luffy. And Kid's like, what are you talking about? And as Killer puts it, they're all idiots.
Right. He's absolutely right. Everyone he's working with currently are idiots.
There was a thing that someone put up of like, a comparison of like captains of their first mates that I saw on Twitter.
I did see that.
So it was like, Killer with Kid. Kid is an idiot. Killer is smart. And then there's like Shanks is an idiot. His first mate is smart. And then it's like Luffy's an idiot. Zoro's an idiot.
Yeah.
So. Killer tells everyone to cover their ears when Appu attacks, and it works. So apparently only if you hear the sound effect that he makes will it actually affect you. So that helps to explain why his power is not actually nearly so powerful as it could be. So they're running around causing shit. Meanwhile, people up at the Tobirapo are observing what's going on and stuff. They're talking amongst each other. And one of them who's looking over everything is like, I've heard enough out of Queen. He wants to kill someone. Well, so do I. Then we cut over to Big Mom for a bit. And she's talking with some people. And she's like, I've gotten in touch with my crew, and it sounds like the ship is fine. They'll be arriving soon. But someone says, well, Big Mom, that's strange because there are no signs of ships at the main port. And she says, what port? So we get a recap briefly of where the forces are riding around and stuff around the island. That's going on. Sanji spots a pleasure hall and he goes in. Yep, he likes women.
Well, they note it's where Black Maria is, so he goes inside, and then he comes out immediately. So he didn't see something he liked.
But there's no women in there, and it turns out that the place is basically completely empty. So he was very disappointed. People are running around and stuff like that. And then Big Mom says to herself, oh, I hear a lot of noise outside. And so Kinemon shouts, someone's poking their head out. Everyone jump into the water. And so at that moment, Big Mom sticks her head out. Everyone who was on the bridges and decks and stuff has taken cover. And, of course, someone who couldn't do that is Captain Chopper, who is in a tank. And so the tank happens to be rolling by right in front of the window, and he's like, because he's right in front of Big Mom.
I do like that. So people are saying that he saw Big Mom. I didn't think it was the same building. I might have just gotten that wrong. Like someone might have said that she's staying where Black Maria is right now. So yeah, I do like it.
So we cut to the falls outside Wano, and of course, since Big Mom's crew doesn't know about the actual port of Wano, they're going up that waterfall. Again. Fool me once.
This time.
So they're going up. Prospero is leading them, of course, as they go up the waterfall. And they're like, why isn't there any other way into this place? So, and also, though, they're wondering about the alliance they're supposedly forming. A whole bunch of the siblings are there, and so there's a few familiar faces among them. But anyway, Prospero is like, this is exactly where King was waiting before, and they spot someone else flapping up above them, and Prospero's like, oh no, not King again! But then they realize, no, it's not him, because it's Marco the Phoenix, formerly of the Whitebeard Pirates, and he's got glasses now.
Yeah, we saw him before. I think he had glasses.
He was wearing eyeglasses to show that time had passed.
I also like fucking oh hello. Oh hello. I do like how it's only been 2 years basically, the time skip. But Marco has felt like he has aged like an entire generation exclusively just because he put eyeglasses on.
So he spots Big Mom. He's like, oh, I guess that rumor about the alliance was true. And then he just, descends on them and just kicks them out of the air and topples the ship over. And they're like, not again! As he flaps over them. And he says, like, the next time you show up, the times may have moved on a bit more than before. And as Big Mom's ship goes plummeting down, another ship is going up the falls. And there is some sort of cat person who's like, what was that? Big old ship falling over there. And there's a woman who says, look, it was Marco's work. Haven't seen it since that war.
Is that not Cat Viper and Okiku?
I thought the Cat Viper was already on the island somewhere. Because I thought it was Cat Viper. Because it looks just like Cat Viper.
Izo? People are saying Izo. Okay. Cat Viper and Izo. Okay, I don't know.
It makes sense because it's the Whitebeard.
Yeah, that's right. We did see Cat Viper went to go get Marco.
Okay.
Who's Izo?
That was the person who joined Whitebeard's crew because Odin was traveling with Whitebeard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it was somebody I didn't care about. That's right. All right, got it.
So it makes sense that, they witnessed Marco's work that they have seen in the war because Whitebeard's pirates re-engaged in the war. So.
All right, there we go. Look, this is a good chapter. I like it. It's very funny. I like the little jokes. I like how Killer is trying to explain, like, if you can't hear, you won't suffer any of the penalty. You won't be hurt by Kaido. And all the guys have their canes over there. So they're like, what?
So that's manga for this week.
Hey, and just as a heads up, we did get one last donation as things go down. We got a $10 donation here then from Cynthia Rill, the Rill family, coming up big today with lots of donations. So thank you, everybody. Actually, no, sorry, the $10 donation came a lot earlier today. I just got an email about it and I got confused. Anyway, guys, that brings our final total for all this. With all this, we raised $5,800, and look, this is incredible. It's absolutely absurd. I shouldn't say we raised this. This is entirely the kindness of all you who have been listening. So I'm always bad with words. All I could say is that
we're extra bad with words.
Yeah,
right now,
obviously. But look, this is incredibly awesome. It's a good feeling, and I have good faith that this money will be used for very good things, and it's very relieving to feel like something good is happening at a time right now where so many awful things feel like they are happening so constantly. So I just want to give a big thank you to everybody who was here and who participated today. It is beyond the words I could really express.
Well, you expressed that better than I think.
Okay.
So, good job, man.
So we should announce. Actually, let's do MVPs real quick.
Favorites, MVP, and favorite chapter this week, Chris.
It's gonna be Chainsaw Man as my chapter of the week, and I think it's gonna be. I was debating about giving it to somebody else, but I think I'm gonna give it to Aki from Chainsaw Man as well. I think this was just a really powerful moment for him. The chapter is already best, and I think Aki was great. Also, it breaks up what was it, like 5 straight weeks that I gave it to Mashle, so, or 4 straight weeks. So there we go.
I'm actually gonna give mine to Time Paradox Ghost Rider for favorite chapter because I really like the developments in this chapter. It makes me, I mean, I was very tepid about going forward doing this series, but this introduces an interesting dynamic of having this constant reminder in Tepe's face of what the decision he's made and what he's got to live up to. But I'm going to agree with you. Definitely the MVP is Aki, because this is a huge, I mean, it's not like he does anything in particular really huge in this. He's more just kind of like the person who's there while stuff is happening around him, and then he makes his choice known. But it's a big thing that shows how much he has grown to care about these two people that severely annoyed him to the point that he just wanted to kill them and be done with it at the beginning of the series. So.
The audience picked Chainsaw Man as their chapter of the week, and Aki was the character of the week. All right, so real quick, we announced before that we lottoed off the next recommendation. Arjun the King won, and Arjun the King has told us what they would like us to read next. So our next recommendation is going to be a manga called Dead Mount Death Play, about a necromancer called the Corpse God fighting against the church and trying to subjugate him. His last ounce of his power against the Calamity Crusher is defeated, but his reincarnation magic activates. He gets transported in a world of modern science. So we're gonna check that out. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I know this is one that's being simul-published, so we're gonna definitely check that out then and get back to you. And then we will. It does sound like an isekai, which hey, we should check out more of this, I guess. And
it's kind of a reverse isekai.
Yeah, it actually is. But we're gonna go check that out.
I know that isekai just means another world, so technically it's not an inverse, but it's an inverse of the expectation.
Yeah, usually you go from like the modern society to the fantasy world. Yes. I just said what was the very bluntest redundant thing. I'm very smart right now, Vic.
Yes.
So we'll also be getting in touch with the 2 other individuals then, and we'll announce those kind of as they come up. So right now, just I don't know what else to say, Nick. Words have left me.
Gotcha. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Both those of you who joined us for the 12-hour stream and for those of us who just joined us for the regular recording, we appreciate you doing that. Thank you to all of our regular listeners who listen to the recording and stuff like that. Keep in mind that you can check out other recorded episodes on twitch.tv/ReloadC when they're highlighted, and we do that usually 7:30 to 8 Eastern time, Wednesday evenings. You can check out our recorded episodes on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com. You can support us by going on patreon.com/weeklymangarecap. We appreciate all the support you get from you guys because it allows us to do bonus stuff for you. We would like to give special thanks to Ninja X3i for maintaining the Google spreadsheet, which is very helpful in keeping track of stuff that we've done recommendations for already, whether people want to see, and other cool statistics and stuff like that. And also it tracks who the audience MVP and series of the week are, which is very useful since Chris could just say what it was instead of having to count.
Everyone saw how good I was at improving numbers and things like that today, so you know.
Yeah. Special thanks as well to Infamous Planet for making the visual, the frame for the visual version of the podcast stream, to Winston Cheddar and Milo Jack Stillitz for the opening sequence of Weekly Manga Recap. And that's... Oh, and Steve Mann.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Steve Mann. That's awesome. Boobs. Yeah, huzzah. Nick, what do we want to do? Let's come up with an elaborate choreographed bit to end up this podcast on. No? Wait, do you want to just like quietly, like meekly go into the night? Like, oh, I'm tired.
Just kind of like turn off the stream and then just kind of like...
and just like slowly slump into the ground. He's gone.